I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're unpacking the wild and hilarious journey of Jacqualine Jenkins' book, My $3,000 Gerbil. Join us right now as we dive into the chaos that ensues from a simple Christmas gift that turns into a household that is just turned upside down, leading to weevil infestations, kitchen disasters, and unexpected injuries. This is a story not just about a gerbil on the loose. It's a story about resilience and humor needed to face life's absurd challenges. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her wonderful book. The links are below this interview. And Jacqualine, good to see you here today.
Thank you.
And Gaye Ictech is with us as well. You're the inspiration for the story. You told the story to Jacqualine, right?
Correct. We kind of wrote it together. She's the main one. Like, I gave her the story or told her the story, and she kind of souped it up and made it more entertaining.
Gotcha. You guys kind of brains.
Added the
She told me for months and years she'd been thinking about writing the book.
Yes.
And since just wrote my first book, I told her, I said, let me do it. It sounds too funny. You know, it has to be made into a book.
Wonderful. Well, it is a great story. Why don't we start out by telling Jacqualine, I'll ask you, what is the story of My $3,000 Gerbil all about?
I went to dinner one night. Gaye was there. She told me the whole story, and I laughed all through the night, and that's how it all came about.
Wonderful
story.
And Gaye, what is the story? Tell the folks at home a little bit of what the book is about.
So back in 2009, I had a 6-year-old son, a 9-year-old daughter, and I was going through a divorce. Christmas was coming up, and I kept thinking about what I wanted to get my children. You know, we were all going through a hard time. So I figured they have a lot of toys and clothes. What can I get them? And on the weekends, we have 2 dogs and a cat. We'd go to the pet store. So they love to look at the animals. And they'd always want to play with the gerbils and the different, things in the toy store. So they would say, Mom, can I have a gerbil? And they kept asking. And so I thought for Christmas, let's do something different. Mm-hmm. So I surprised them, or Santa Claus surprised them with each a gerbil for Christmas.
Wow.
They each had a home, each gerbil. And Christmas morning, Santa dropped them off. And right after my son Chase got Mr. Speedy Gonzalez, one of the gerbils, he decided he was going to escape right away, but he escaped in my son's room and he was able to catch him. But then about a week and a half later, he escaped again and he was on the loose for 3 years.
Wow.
And during that time, he caused lots of destruction. Headaches almost caused me to move out of my home, stop cooking in my kitchen. I lived in a big, beautiful home. I had maids that worked for me. My home was spotless. I hired 2 different pest control companies. The first pest control company that had been doing it for years could not get to the root of the problem. And they finally gave up and said, look, you might want to hire somebody else because we just can't figure it out. So I hired another gentleman that had been doing pest control for almost 30 years. He was so intrigued by not being able to find the source of the problem that he said he would do it for free because he wanted to get to the root of the problem. And it took time. He would come over, learn to trust him. I'd give him my key and I'd let him come in my house and investigate. And lo and behold, he surely did find the problem. And it's astonishing what a little bitty tiny gerbil could do. I did not even know. I even Googled on the internet information if a gerbil could do this, and I could find nothing on the internet about it because it's so. He was on the loose and I knew he was alive. We would set sticky traps when my kids would go to their father's house every other weekend because I was divorced. Mm-hmm. My neighbor, which was their Mimi, that would take care of them after school. She was their babysitter. They called her Mimi. She would come over when I would bring my children on a Friday to their father's and she would help me set sticky traps with peanut butter and cheese. And to try to catch it, we'd put about 50 of them around my kitchen and all through the house. And we could see that the little gerbil would come and get little pieces of it, but we couldn't catch him. Like, he was so smart, he never got caught in the traps. So finally, after several times of doing that, we decided to get real rat traps. And we're like, we're going to get them. So, peanut butter and cheese. And I'd come home, I'd leave my house on a Friday, come home on a Sunday while the kids were at their dad's, and a few of the traps would be popped and no gerbil in sight. I'm like, goodness. But I knew he was alive because every now and again, we'd flip on the light in the kitchen and we'd see a sighting of him running past or watching TV. We'd see him run past. And my son was young and fast then, and he tried to get him with nets, and he was so fast we cannot catch this thing. So finally, we decided that it was a good idea, maybe, that my daughter, to give hers away because she saw the craziness and the destruction that this little gerbil was causing. So we found a home for her gerbil, Belle. Her name was Belle. We gave Belle away. And
he was just afraid that if Belle got loose,
yeah, we were scared I was going to have two of them.
Or you might have dozens if one's a boy and one's a girl. You never know.
So finally, after hiring 2 plumbers, several maids, there was I would see on my countertops in my kitchen, it started off a little bit at a time, like little bitty, like little black, it looked like little fleas or something on my countertop and my floors in my kitchen area. And I'm like, what is this? Because my maid would come that day and I would get home from work and I'm like, what is this all over my floor? My house would be smelling good, immaculate, everything in place. And I'm like, where are these bugs coming from? What is this? So finally, my pest control service, that would come, she's like, I don't know what this is. And so she took some of them and she put it in a container and she sent it to the lab to see what they were. And she came back and she says, it's positive for weevils. And she says, but weevils have to have a source. So I hired my maid to come over and she brought 3 other ones with her. So there was 4 maids. They cleaned my entire pantry because weevils are famous for living in like rice, flour, sugar, food products, or like potpourri. So we tore my house apart and got rid of anything like that. No sign of weevils, bleached everything, just couldn't find anything, any source. It has to have a source. So like I said, after that, the first pest control service is like, she kept trying to help me, and it for like a year now. This was a long, even tried all different kind of treatments, like with her, like she ordered all these different type of things, treated the outside of the house. I mean, it was really costing me a lot of money at this point. So finally, I got another company and he stepped in, like I said, and he was amazed. He's like, I've never seen anything like this. So one night I was at dinner and he called me after several weeks of him doing investigation. And he's like, Gaye, you're never going to believe this. He says, please come home right now. So I did. And he's just like ecstatic. He's standing in my driveway with a shovel and a big, large garbage bag. And he says, you're not going to believe. He was just like so excited, but being that he's, makes a living pest control, that's his thing. He had in that garbage bag, he had broken up and found, well, first of all, he pulled out my stove. Behind my stove, I had like a lazy Susan, which is like, you pull the door open like my cabinet and it's where the liquid spins and it spins around. Well, behind that was a mound he found, a mound that this little gerbil had built. 12 pounds.
Wow.
He would chew up the dog food and cat food with his saliva and he'd go back there and he made it. So it was made of dog food. So that was the source that we had been looking for over a year. Now, this is 2.5 years. We're talking 2.5 years after, because these little bugs started to take over my home. They were out of control. And I was so thankful to him, but he was so amazed. He had asked me if I'd make a commercial. At the time, the work that I did had to do with food and politics and different things that I didn't want to go on television.
I had a bug
but
infested
now
home.
looking back, I'm like, I know I'm a clean person. It had nothing to do with that. I can laugh about it, but at the time, it was really it was really heartbreaking because it was a big financial thing, but it was a mental. I mean, it was bad. They were everywhere. I was wanting to move out of my home. I'm not kidding, or at least tear
Amazing.
out the kitchen until, but I was just very thankful that Armando found the mound, but it was 12 pounds. He had to break it up and it was hard as concrete. He had to break it up with a shovel and it was
Amazing.
full infested with the weevils and
Ah,
that little creature for 3 years. So now the best part is he found the source. However, the gerbil was still on the loose. He did not find the gerbil. He didn't even know when he found that exactly what that I had a gerbil on the loose. He
right.
didn't know what he was looking for. He was looking for a source. I didn't even tell him because why would I think that a gerbil would have anything to do with that?
Right.
Anyways, when he found that, then it dawned on me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I forgot to tell you, I have a gerbil on the loose. So a few months went past, the gerbil's still on the loose. So one day, it's storming, raining outside. I put my kids on the school bus one morning and I was packing because we were going on a Memorial Day weekend vacation. Um, I was washing dishes in the kitchen and I have a window in my kitchen and I'm looking out at the rain and washing my dishes and loaded my dishwasher. And I reached up underneath my sink to get a cascade to put in my dishwasher. And when I opened the door, water is just spewing everywhere, coming out. And I see this little gerbil. He's chewing on my water line. The water is flying everywhere, and he's steady chewing, and he's soaking wet. And he's just, and I try to, so I was like, oh my goodness. So I reached in my cabinet and I grabbed plastic Mardi Gras cups. We're from New Orleans. I have tons of them. That's what the kids drink out of. Everyone in the South drinks out of these Mardi Gras cups. So I grabbed 2 plastic Mardi Gras cups and we went to battle. I got under that sink and I tried to scoop him up and he was furious. He kept chewing and chewing and he did not want to stop chewing. And water spraying, we went to battle. And he was like fighting me. He did not want me to get him. And so by this point, he's all bloody and banged up and he's still fighting me. So I'm like trying to scoop him up and at this point, I hate to say it, I wasn't trying to hurt him, but if I did, I was okay with it because I was always ready for him to be gone. So finally, after a few minutes, I got him and I had the 2 cups together and I was by myself. It was storming outside. I ran to my back door and I opened the door and I ran out my backyard to the back fence. And like I said, it was storming and I took the cups and the gerbil and I hummed it over the fence. And I said, good riddance.
Oh boy, that's quite an ending.
I felt guilty, but I said this thing. And then meanwhile, I have water still spewing all over my kitchen floor. So I have to call a plumber to come fix it. That cost me a few $100s to come fix before I could go to Florida because, you know, I have a leak now.
Yeah, exactly.
So that afternoon, packed up the kids after school.
That's okay. That's okay. I was just going to ask Jacqueline. We'll save a little bit for the book. We'll let the folks at home read about it. But Jacqueline, what was it like taking Gaye's story and turning that into a book? That's kind of a lot to unpack there. So tell us about the writing of the book.
Well, it was funny writing it, but every time I tell somebody else about it, I mean, just this last Sunday, I told some women at church that they have like a coffee room that you go before church. And when I got to the part about her battling, went to battle with this thing, everybody was just laughing. I mean, it's such a funny.
It's amazing.
Story.
It really is.
The funny part is that it's really true.
It really is.
Who's your audience for the book? Who's your target audience?
Actually,
children,
yeah,
everyone, honestly, because it's educational. Because I was not aware that these gerbils could actually do such a thing, build these type of mounds. Like I said, I Googled it and I cannot find anywhere. I know they burrow and they like to chew because their 2 front teeth grow and they need something to kind of sharpen them down. But I didn't know that they were capable of making something to this magnitude. This thing was, this gerbil is this big and this mound was 12 pounds and it was
Crazy.
like
Crazy. The name of the book is My 3,000-Pound Gerbil. My 3,000 pound. The
$3,000.
name of the book is My $3,000 Gerbil. It sounds like it should be a 3,000-pound gerbil since it did so much damage to your home and haunted you for years.
I think
The book is
There's more to the story.
well, we can't. It's in the book, folks. The links are below this interview. We've been delighted today to talk to both Gaye and Jacqualine about this incredible story. And perhaps the most incredible part, of course, is that it's true. And it's all in the book. You can read about it. Like I said, the links are below. Jacqualine and Gaye, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.